What if the most dangerous battles of the Cold War were never fought on a battlefield? What if the real war unfolded in hotel rooms, behind embassy walls, and inside the minds of people who never even knew they were targets? For decades, two invisible forces shaped global history in silence. The Central Intelligence Agency and the KGB did not just gather secrets. They rewrote governments, influenced elections, and quietly altered the course of nations. Some of their most shocking operations remained hidden for years, not because they were small, but because they were too dangerous to reveal. This is the story of that hidden war. The year is 1947. World War II has ended, but peace is fragile and uncertain. Cities across Europe lie in ruins. Millions are displaced. Power is shifting rapidly. Two superpowers rise from the aftermath: the United States and the Soviet Union. They are no longer allies. Suspicion grows quickly, turning cooperation into quiet hostility. On March 12, 1947, President Harry S. Truman announces what becomes known as the Truman Doctrine. It is a turning point. The United States commits to containing the spread of communism anywhere in the world. This moment marks the beginning of a new kind of conflict: the Cold War. There are no official declarations of war, no direct full-scale military confrontation between the two superpowers. Instead, the conflict spreads through proxy wars, political pressure, propaganda, and intelligence operations. In the shadows of this new struggle, a powerful institution is born. On July 26, 1947, the National Security Act is signed into law. It creates the Central Intelligence Agency. Its official mission is to collect intelligence, analyze threats, and advise policymakers, but almost immediately its role expands. Covert operations begin to take shape. In 1948, the CIA carries out one of its first major secret actions in Italy. Through funding, propaganda, and political influence, it works to prevent a communist victory in the Italian elections. The operation remains hidden from the public for years. This sets a precedent. The CIA is not just observing history, it is shaping it. Across the Iron Curtain, the Soviet Union responds with its own system of control. In 1954, the KGB is officially established, though its roots trace back to earlier organizations like the NKVD. Unlike the CIA, the KGB has a dual role. It operates both as a foreign intelligence agency and as an internal security force. It monitors enemies abroad and citizens at home. Under leaders like Ivan Serov, its first chairman, the KGB becomes one of the most powerful instruments of state control in the Soviet system. Its reach is extensive. It listens, it watches, it records, and it acts without warning. By the mid-1950s, both agencies are fully operational, and a silent competition begins. Each side is trying to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast the other. But as the years pass, something changes. The conflict becomes more experimental, more psychological, more unsettling. By the late 1950s, reports begin to surface from diplomats, defectors, and intelligence insiders. Stories that seem almost impossible at first. Accounts of individuals behaving irrationally after exposure to unknown substances. Interrogations that do not rely on physical force, but on breaking the human mind. Rumors of programs designed not just to extract information, but to control thoughts and actions. At first, these stories are dismissed as exaggerations, or even propaganda, but then fragments of truth begin to emerge. In the United States, a classified program quietly expands under strict secrecy. It is known as Project MK-Ultra. Officially approved in April 1953 under CIA Director Allen Dulles, the program is built on a single deeply unsettling question: can the human mind be controlled? The program explores a wide range of techniques: hypnosis, electroshock, sensory deprivation, psychological conditioning, but one substance becomes central to the experiments: LSD. At the time, LSD is still new and poorly understood. Some researchers believe it could unlock hidden layers of consciousness. Others think it could be used to destabilize or manipulate behavior. The CIA begins testing it on human subjects, often without their knowledge or consent. In safe houses set up in cities like San Francisco and New York City, individuals are unknowingly given the drug. Some are lured in through staged encounters, others are selected randomly. Agents observe from behind hidden glass panels. They take notes on reactions, confusion, fear, suggestibility. The goal is not therapy or scientific understanding. The goal is control. One of the most disturbing cases emerges in 1953. A scientist named Frank Olson, who is working with the CIA, is secretly dosed with LSD during a meeting. Within days, his mental state deteriorates. On November 28, 1953, Olson falls from a hotel window in New York City and dies. For years, the incident is ruled a suicide. Decades later, questions remain. Was it an accident, or was it something else? At the same time, on the other side of the world, the Soviet Union is pursuing its own psychological experiments. The details are harder to confirm. Soviet archives remain partially hidden for decades. But defectors and former intelligence officers describe interrogation methods that go far beyond traditional techniques. Sleep deprivation lasting for days, isolation in total darkness, extreme psychological pressure designed to break resistance without leaving physical evidence. There are also reports of chemical methods being tested. Substances intended to weaken willpower, to create confusion, to make a subject more compliant. Some accounts even suggest attempts to alter memory, to erase it, or reshape it. By the early 1960s, the Cold War has entered a new phase. It is no longer just about weapons or territory. It is about influence, perception, and control over entire populations. And nowhere is this more visible than in the divided city of Berlin. After World War II, Berlin is split into sectors. The western half is controlled by the United States and its allies, while the eastern half falls under the Soviet Union. By 1961, tension reaches a breaking point. On August 13, 1961, construction begins on what will become the Berlin Wall. Concrete, barbed wire, guard towers, a physical barrier, but also a symbol of something deeper. Two worlds divided by ideology. For intelligence agencies, Berlin becomes one of the most important battlegrounds on Earth. Spies move through the city under constant risk. Informants pass secrets in crowded streets. Every embassy, every checkpoint, every conversation carries potential consequences. It is here that one of the most ambitious CIA operations takes shape. Operation Gold. In 1954, the CIA, working with British intelligence, begins planning a secret tunnel beneath Berlin. The goal is bold. Tap directly into Soviet communication lines. Construction starts in secret. Engineers dig a tunnel from the American sector into the Soviet-controlled area. The project takes nearly a year to complete. By early 1955, the tunnel is operational. For months, American and British intelligence listen in on Soviet military communications. Thousands of conversations are recorded. It appears to be a major success, but there is a hidden twist. The KGB already knows. A British intelligence officer named George Blake has been secretly working as a double agent for the Soviets. He informs the KGB about the tunnel before it is even completed. Instead of shutting it down immediately, the Soviets allow the operation to continue. They feed carefully selected information through the lines. False data, controlled leaks, a carefully constructed illusion. For nearly a year, the CIA believes it is uncovering valuable intelligence. In reality, it is being manipulated. In April 1956, the Soviets publicly expose the tunnel. They frame it as a violation of international law, a clear act of espionage. The world reacts with shock. But behind the scenes, the damage is already done. Not just in terms of intelligence, but in trust. The CIA has been outplayed. At the same time, the KGB is conducting operations of its own. Some are quiet, others are bold and unmistakable. One of the most infamous cases begins in 1959. A man named Bogdan Stashinsky, a KGB agent, is assigned a mission: eliminate political enemies of the Soviet state living in the West. His weapon is unusual: a specially designed gun that fires a fine mist of poison. The substance is cyanide. When inhaled, it causes rapid death, leaving almost no trace. In October 1959 in Munich, Stashinsky uses the device to assassinate Ukrainian nationalist leader Stepan Bandera. At first, Bandera's death appears natural. Only later does the truth emerge. In 1961, Stashinsky defects to the West. During his trial, he reveals details of the operation: the method, the planning, the approval from high levels within the KGB. It confirms what many had suspected. The Cold War is not just about intelligence gathering. It includes targeted killing. Meanwhile, the CIA expands its operations beyond Europe. In 1953 in Iran, it plays a key role in a covert mission known as Operation Ajax. The objective is to remove Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, who had nationalized the country's oil industry. Working with British intelligence, the CIA organizes protests, spreads propaganda, and supports a coup. By August 1953, Mossadegh is overthrown. The Shah returns to power. The operation is considered a success at the time, but its long-term consequences are far more complex. By the late 1970s and into the 1980s, the hidden war reaches a point where truth itself becomes uncertain. Not just secrets, but reality is being shaped. Information is planted, altered, and sometimes being fabricated. And for the first time, the public begins to catch glimpses of what had been buried for decades. In 1975, a major turning point occurs in the United States. The United States Senate launches an investigation known as the Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church. Its purpose is to examine intelligence activities that had remained hidden for years. What it uncovers shocks the nation. Documents reveal that the Central Intelligence Agency had conducted secret experiments on human subjects without consent. Project MKUltra is no longer a rumor. It is confirmed. The investigation finds that many records had already been destroyed in 1973 on orders from CIA Director Richard Helms. Even so, enough evidence survives to paint a disturbing picture. Hundreds of experiments, universities involved without full knowledge, hospitals used as testing grounds, ordinary people unknowingly exposed to powerful substances. The line between national security and human rights had been crossed, and for many, it had happened without accountability. At the same time, cracks begin to appear within the Soviet system. Defectors continue to provide insight into the operations of the KGB. They describe a system built not only on external espionage, but internal fear. Surveillance is constant. Informants are everywhere. Writers, scientists, even government officials can become targets. One of the most revealing accounts comes from Oleg Gordievsky, a high-ranking KGB officer who secretly works with British intelligence. In the early 1980s, Gordievsky provides critical information about Soviet strategies and perceptions. He reveals how deeply the Soviet leadership fears a surprise nuclear attack from the West. This fear is not based on clear evidence, but on interpretation of signals, military exercises, and political rhetoric. The result is dangerous. A system on edge, ready to react. In 1983, during a NATO military exercise known as Able Archer 83, the Soviet Union briefly believes that a real nuclear strike might be imminent. For a moment, the world comes closer to nuclear confrontation than many realize, and it is not due to weapons alone. It is due to misunderstanding, misperception, the very tool both sides have been using. Different interpretations of these events begin to emerge. Some historians argue that the CIA and the KGB were necessary instruments of survival. In a world divided by ideology, intelligence agencies provided critical information that prevented larger conflicts. Without them, misunderstandings could have escalated even further. Others see it differently. They argue that these agencies did not just respond to threats, they amplified them. By manipulating governments, spreading disinformation, and conducting secret experiments, they contributed to the very instability they were meant to control. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Both agencies operated under intense pressure. Both believed they were protecting their nations. But both also crossed boundaries that would be difficult to justify today. And then comes a detail that changes how we see the entire story. For years, the CIA believed it was behind in mind-control research. There was a genuine fear that the Soviets had already developed advanced techniques to control human behavior. This fear helped justify programs like MKUltra. But later evidence suggests something surprising. The Soviet capabilities in this area may have been far less advanced than the CIA believed. In some cases, the threat was overestimated, even misunderstood. This creates a powerful shift in perspective. Some of the most controversial actions taken by the CIA were not responses to confirmed threats. They were responses to perceived ones. A war driven, not only by reality, but by fear of what the other side might be capable of. At the same time, the KGB also operated under its own assumptions. It viewed Western actions through a lens of suspicion. Every move was interpreted as a part of a larger plan. This mutual distrust created a cycle, each side reacting to the other, each side reinforcing the fears of the other. A feedback loop that shaped decades of global tension. By 1991, the Cold War came to an end with the collapse of the Soviet Union. The KGB is dissolved, new agencies take its place. The CIA continues, but under increased oversight. The world changes, but the legacy of this hidden war remains. Many operations are still classified, many questions remain unanswered, and many of the techniques developed during that time continue to influence modern intelligence work. Cyber operations, psychological influence campaigns, information warfare, the tools have evolved, but the ideas remain. So what does this mean for history? It means that the Cold War was not just a conflict of weapons or ideology. It was a conflict of perception, of belief, of control over information and over people. The CIA and the KGB were not just observers of history. They were active participants in shaping it, sometimes in ways that prevented conflict, sometimes in ways that brought the world closer to it. And perhaps the most unsettling part is this: some of the most important battles were never seen. They left no visible scars, no clear records, only fragments, stories uncovered years later, and the realization that history is not always what it seems, because in the shadows of power, the truth is often the first thing to disappear.